Welcome to Yacht Fum, where we talk about the women that make the yachting industry. I'm your host, Andrea Tagliaferro. Learn who they are, how they got into yachting, and what they do today. Veronika is a trained architect. She has worked in all aspects of her field, including yacht design. She has served as a professor at some of the most prestigious architecture schools and worked in world-renowned yacht design and architecture firms for over 15 years. Veronika now owns and runs GILL SCHMID Design in New York, a design practice that focuses on yacht design, architecture, and art services. Hi everyone, I am super happy here in New York with Veronika. This is the first time we're doing a podcast in person. As you know, the previous ones you've seen, I have been doing just calls with people that are in other states and pretty much in other countries. So I'm just so fortunate we have someone else in yachting in New York. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Very nice.
So let's dive in.
My name is Veronika Schmid. I'm originally from Austria, but left there in, 1995 to study architecture in London. I've been living in the UK and the US since then, all over the place. I'm an architect and co-director of GILL SCHMID Design here in New York. It's a design office and we specialize in yacht design, architecture and interiors and art services, so a cross-disciplinary design studio.
Okay, great. I actually want to know more if you actually heard that it was the UK, Austria, New York. She actually has a very long journey there. Why and how did you actually move from one place to another one? So you started in Austria.
I was born in Austria. I grew up there. And then I moved to London as a student to study architecture and started working there. So I was in London for 12 years. In between that, I was in Los Angeles for 2 to do a master's in architecture. Went back to London and worked in London for a long time, and then had the opportunity to teach in the US at Columbia here in New York, and then also some other work engagements. So that was the point where we said, okay, we're moving from London to New York, and we've been here ever since.
No, amazing. If you don't know Columbia, it's very well known for architecture. And from our previous conversations, I do know that the London offices she worked at, she has worked with one of the best architects in the world. And if you don't know about architecture, you will know the people she actually has collaborated with. Pretty amazing. Can you tell us a little bit which ones?
I guess in New York, the last office I was working in was Richard Meyer. I did that before setting up my own practice here in New York. In London, I was working at, it was called the Advanced Geometry Unit with Cecil Beaumont at Arup, which was a very specialized research-based group doing architecture. And it was a combination of engineers, physicians, mathematicians, and architects. So it was really exciting.
A thinking tank for design people.
A think tank for design. And the other office, I think, in London that I really enjoyed was working with Martin Francis, which is how I kind of got into yachting. I wanted a change in direction a little bit after being in architecture for such a long time. And Martin had just relocated from Antibes to London for some big projects. And I was, I think, the first hire in London and joined the office and was there for quite a long time. When I was at Richard Myers, I did a lot of high-end residential and hospitality projects, large beachfront condos, hotels, villas, and so on. And when we set up our own practice, we obviously wanted to do architecture, but we had always wanted to go back to yacht design. So that's when we actually picked it up again and went back into yacht design within our own practice.
That's wonderful. So many great design in the yachting industry, and I enjoy so much your background. You have pretty much done it all, from commercial chains, hospitality, as you were saying, and for those of you unfamiliar with design, there's so many rules and guidelines for each, not only for each user, but for each category. So having that wealth of knowledge from someone that can go from a different scale, a different environment is it's enormous.
Mm-hmm.
How long since you made the transition now into the yachting sector?
I think within our own practice, it's been about 8 years now that we really
Wow.
kind of picked it up again. And that was with this short break from leaving Martin's office and in between being at Richard's. But 8 years, I would say, we've been really focusing on the yachting side.
That's a long time.
Right.
Can you tell us in the office, what would be your specific role? Are you in design? Are the one acquiring the clients?
Since it's a small practice, I think a bit of both. I like to be involved very much on the design side. I'm kind of the lead designer, one of the two lead designers. The other one is my partner, Alistair. And we kind of oversee pretty much all projects in the office. And I think for me, I've always really liked and enjoyed building and making things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be very much involved in the realization stages always, whether that's in architecture, yachting, art. But at the same time, I think because we both have quite an academic background and we've been teaching design courses for a long time, we really also enjoy and are very much involved in the early stages of the project. So in the research stages, in the conceptual stages of the project, both of us kind of want to work on those. And then just see them through to the materialization at the end.
That's wonderful. Any projects we may know?
Currently, we're working on some which I can't really talk much about.
Like always in yachting, everything's so secretive.
I think one of the biggest projects we've worked on together with Martin was Motor Yacht A. And that's been really a benchmark for both of us. And that's where we got really excited about the industry and the kind of direction it's taking. And that's what we're kind of striving for.
And that blew up all over social media too.
Right.
There's not going to be one person in yachting at the moment who doesn't know that yacht.
Right.
So that's quite a business card.
Right, and it was interesting to also work with Philip Stark on it and have that whole side of things, yeah.
Yeah, I've been a fan of his as well.
Yeah.
Well, as so many architects, I guess. So Veronika, tell us, has there been a project or a huge day for you? What has been your biggest accomplishment since you've gotten into the yachting industry?
I guess one of the highlights would be working on Motor Yacht A with Martin and Philip Stark, which was pretty exciting for both of us. We both worked on it, Alistair and myself. But to be honest, we feel that almost every new project that we do is kind of our highest accomplishment, or at least it should be.
Yeah.
And the ethos, I think, for us in the office is for each project, whether it's a new yacht design or architecture or product design, interiors or sculpture, to always push the boundaries. Design-wise, that is to push cutting-edge design, develop a more contemporary aesthetic, yet still kind of retaining a modern sensibility and a modern elegance within our projects. We don't really want to make too much noise or produce these kind of loud projects, but we want to produce intelligent design within the office.
Yes, because you have on one end of the spectrum a yacht, if we're staying with a design product here, that looks very exciting from afar when we see it at the dock, but when the user comes on board, is it practical? Will they want to actually spend time on it? So you really have to see where's that balance of it being beautiful, a new piece that you see that we're still moving forward in the design world, but yet there's still a human being that has certain priorities that they want to do. There's certain routines that they don't want to give up. Mm-hmm. Therefore, please think of me when you're designing the yacht.
Yes. And I think we come really always from a kind of architectural point of view when we design yachts. So we think about space, circulation, connection of spaces, vertical connections, sectional relationships. And that's something we've been pushing all along.
To give an insight to our audience here, how long would a design for let's say the Motor Yacht A entail? Is it a couple of weeks, a couple of months? I mean, since the day that the client says, yes, I want to hire you, what does that even look like?
I think I was working on it for almost 3 years.
Wow.
So from the initial concept that Philip Stark developed to then kind of really a detailed design and all the interiors, all the external styling. It was
that
more
seems
or
like a
less
long time.
3-year process, yeah.
Wow. Does this count execution or just your design part?
This was more or less the design part.
Oh, and were you also on the project when it was being executed? Were you flying to the shipyard, or did your design part end?
That was the ended, and then the design part ended, and then the shipyard kind of took over.
I want to know, one of my favorite questions is, if you were starting today in yachting, you've been in, specifically at least in your firm, 8 years in the yachting industry doing design. If you were starting back again, what advice would you give yourself?
I don't think I would do anything different, to be honest. I think I would be now looking back more aware how much it would take over my life and design being kind of all encompassing almost. No downtime, but it's kind of an all consuming profession, I think. And I think you just have to go through the process of getting to know the industry, getting to know the players, making connections with people, and understanding what clients are looking for and want. And that changes over time. I mean, most recently we've had a lot of inquiries for explorer yachts.
Yes.
I would say in the last 2-3 years.
Which is changing, our industry at this moment is changing drastically because the users, a new generation is coming in, and so many people are looking for that yacht expedition and yacht explorer, which are the ones that, those yachts that can actually move to almost every part of the world because they want to explore. That's where the whole thing comes from, every part. And the engineering specs, architectural, interior design, everything actually has to adapt and change. So you were saying that.
Yes, and I think it's kind of a new, not a new approach, but it's kind of maximizing on lifestyle and experience, and not so much about maximizing luxury. So the vessels have to be much more multifunctional than a white boat. They have to be able to adapt to different situations, to different scenarios, different events, different environments. And it becomes a very kind of operational machine. It almost becomes an operational machine. Yet you still want to offer the luxury of a super yacht or a white boat. So to marry those two, I think is a really interesting thing to think about, and are usually very interesting to projects to work on.
Following up on the new era of the yacht expeditions, the yacht explorers, I think you pretty much answered this question, but where do you see the yacht industry heading into?
I think the explorer yacht is definitely one kind of line that's becoming more and more apparent now. But then also at the same time, there's quite a large demand for smaller, kind of more adaptable yachts. So they are white boats, but they could also function as an explorer.
Okay.
But then also obviously the bigger and bigger vessels are something that we're working on.
When you're talking about bigger or smaller, what numbers are you talking about?
Smaller, I would say 50 to 65, 70 meters, and then bigger, 100 meters plus.
Okay. So there's still a big demand for the small vessels.
Yes, most recently we've actually had quite a few demands for 50 to, I would say, 65 meter vessels.
What do you think that is?
I think some of our clients, it was clients who would charter boats, but now they're ready to, buy their own vessel. And that's a good entrance project, a good entrance kind of yacht, and go private. And then obviously the larger ones is 100 plus meters, so that's...
Like every other entrepreneur out there, making everything work, going from mentally changing gears from commercial interior residential design, teaching, changing countries, and finally basing yourself in New York. How are you making it work? Can you just tell us, what is your morning routine? How do you pack it all in?
So we usually start pretty early. I think we start around 5:30 each day. With a cup of coffee.
2, 3, 4?
No, just one for me. Then I do my emails in the morning, and then try and stay away from email for the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the emails, it's pretty much full-on work mode all day, until until you can't think anymore.
Lunch break, take a walk.
Lunch break, exactly. And then just keep going. And then the same the next day and the next day and the next day. So we don't really have that much time off.
Thank you for being here if I haven't said it yet.
But we try and escape for small breaks when we can, 2-3 days here or there, just to recharge, and then just go back into it. I mean, the thing is, we enjoy it. I don't know what else we would be doing whenever we have longer breaks. Both of us tend to get bored pretty quickly, and then start reading about design or looking at design. So it's kind of just always there.
It's crazy. It's when people say, "What do you do?" No, this is who I am.
Yes.
I am a designer.
Yes.
Everywhere you look, you're actually thinking, how can you incorporate it? I don't know. She was just recently in Miami for the winter break, and even though she says that she finally was calm, recharged on the beach, I'm sure she was thinking of how this calmness she could incorporate in one of her designs.
Yes, and we were working a little bit when we were there, just to keep up with things.
10 books and just a little bit of design.
Exactly.
Well, if you can, I know this is so hard, but can you share a little bit of what you're working on? What are you allowed to tell us?
We're working on an Explorer yacht, fairly small, 50 meter. We're working on a 65 meter white boat, 100 plus meter white boat, and a boutique cruise liner at the moment.
Okay.
So we're pretty busy.
Yeah,
yes,
that sounds like
thankfully.
it. Well, I am super happy you were able to come and we made this work. Again, I'm happy this is our first podcast that we have someone presently at the office, so thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the first ever episode of Yacht Femme. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and comment. Your comment will help us reach a broader audience. And don't miss the next episode. Bye!